Welcome to the Stories That Sparkle. I'm Hella Rader. And in honor of October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I have invited Jenn to join me today to share her story with us. Jenn is the woman behind Tiny Kitchen Dances on Instagram. I'm really honored to call Jenn a friend of mine. She is incredible. She's inspirational. She's just amazing to me. And I am so grateful to be part of her community of mutual support. And I'm just so grateful that Jenn was willing to join me for this conversation, willing to have this conversation with me. And I'm really quite proud of this entire episode. It is also her story that is told through the documentary Tiny Movements, which was directed by Laura Sweeney, whom I had on in September to talk a little bit more about the film specifically and her journey with directing it. So check that episode out. Today's episode is also longer than my usual run times. I did that deliberately and by choice. I wanted to give Jenn and this conversation a lot of space, a lot of room. I wanted her to have the time to share as much as she wanted to share of her story and her experience, not just what happened, but also her healing journey after that and where she's at today with things like dating. So yeah, there's a lot of hope in here. There's a lot of joy in here. There's a lot of choosing to live in here, because at the end of the day, it's all about stand by me, not just the community that stands by me, but that I stand by me. I do want to give you a brief content warning. We talk about domestic violence and marital rape. So please take care of yourself, and if need be, skip this episode entirely. Thank you for joining us, and I invite you to get comfortable, sit back, and listen in. I'm Hella Rader. With a good sense of humor, an open heart, and an open mind, I love to explore the very human complexities in others and in myself. That's why I created a space for women you have never heard of and could easily pass on the street to share in their own voices the intricacies of starting over in life, building community, inhabiting their bodies, and more. Welcome to Our Disco Ball, the stories that sparkle. All right. Well, how are you, Jenn?
All right. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
Thank you for joining me. This is awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I guess we could start with how Kitchen Dances began, like the origin of that and what that was about for you. Because as someone who actually will dance, I have a pole in my house, so I do a lot of that. But just for myself. So I just was like, oh my gosh, I'm so drawn to this. And you have a disco ball in the.
I do have a disco ball. There it is.
Yes, and as you can see, I have lots of disco balls. So I don't know how much of the backstory or the story of how, like, what happened you want to get into. But
I'm happy to share.
yeah,
I mean,
just
happy might not be the right
I
word,
know,
but
yeah.
it's like for instance, tonight I went and babysat for a family for the first time who I'm probably going to start nannying some for in the next few months. And, they're asking questions that lead me to tell them, like, yeah, I have this film. And they're like, oh, a film. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
And, I looked at them and I said, I'm really not secretive about this, but it's hard to hear.
right.
And I told them, this is like the second time they've met me. And I I said to them, I said, this is something where like it's taken me a long time to get to this place. I said, but it's part of my work. I'm super passionate and fierce about at this point. Like, you know, I didn't do anything. And I wish to shift the narratives and I wish to shift the, inability to speak these things. So, you know, do I find great joy in telling the story? No, but do I find like healthy, like being? Yes, I do. So I have a background in professional dance and yoga. Um, and I've always danced in my house. I think when I look back, there's a few stories of where they started. Where I really started them, in earnest, was January of 2020. But when I look back, I started doing them here and there right after I found everything. I had a partner, my husband, in 2015. We had been together for 15 years, married for 12. We got married in 2003. Um, we had two children. In 2015, they were, when I found everything, which we'll get to what I found, they were 9 and 6. They were in second grade and kindergarten. Um, I there's much backstory here, but I think just, we can talk a little bit about that. But the cliff notes being, um, I found videos on my husband's computer where I was drugged and he was raping me. Um, I There were at least a dozen videos from the timestamps. The timestamp started in 2011 and went to the night before I found them in 2015. Um,
Hmm.
so when I found all of those, lots of things, um, but I started to think about the things that had been funny, the things that had been a little off. Um, I confronted him. It took quite a while to get to all the pieces of things, but what I came to understand was that he was buying Ambien on the black market from another stagehand, and he was drugging me by putting it into alcohol. He'd come home late at work, we'd have a nightcap, he'd make me a drink. Um, and one of the things I remembered was that there was a night where um, I was like, oh, just make me a mug of tea. I don't want, a drink. And the tea tasted terrible. I remember I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, was there soap in the mug? And he goes, oh gosh, I don't know. Let me go rinse it out. And he took it back. And then he brought it back and it was like so full of honey that I was like, it's gross. Like it's like syrupy. And I didn't drink it. And I remembered that. And
Hmm.
in parts of my confronting him, that was one of the nights that he did. And he realized that he was learning, so to speak. He realized he couldn't mask the crushed up Ambien in tea. It was only an
Wow.
alcohol.
Wow.
Um, and he doesn't know, or if he did know, he didn't know how, he didn't tell me ever how much he was giving me, but it was high doses. He said, he was crushing it up and giving it to me. And then he realized that if he gave me more, that I would be extra compliant. And so he would often give me, and he'd be like, here, take this. He'd tell me it was like Advil or Tylenol for my headache because I was a little drunk, he'd tell me, and this would help me the next day.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that is what I found. I found that the man I had married, the father of my children,
Hmm.
um, our very fairy tale life, we really like were the like beautiful couple with the beautiful children who had this amazing story, who figured out buying a house in Brooklyn at the age of 30. Like we were like the Incredibles.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah. And people ask me, they're like, well, did you have any inklings? Did you like, and I said, no. The only thing I can tell you is that for about a year, I had been saying, things are funny. I feel a little funny. I'm really tired. I feel like I'm losing time, but I can't figure out, like, there's no rhythm to it. There's no like every Friday and I had two little kids. We had just bought a house. We were putting our kids in private school. I was running my own business. Of course, I was freaking tired,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
But to speak to instinct and trusting yourself, a year before I found everything, I came home and I popped up on the counter in our sunny kitchen. And he was home, which means it was a Monday because the theater was dark. And I said, out of the blue, like literally, like no idea where this came from. I said, "Hey," I said, "Are you giving me something?"
Wow.
And I remember the feeling like those words went out of my mouth, and I was like, "What did I just say? Where the fuck did that come from? I'm an insane human." Like, I wanted to just like shove them back in. And he looked at me so tenderly and he said, "Oh gosh, thank you for being so willing to ask me something so horrible and trust me so much. And, gosh, you're so tired. You're doing so much. Like, let's send you away for a weekend. Let's get you a massage. Like, let me help you." The gaslighting to the gaslighting to the gaslighting to the gaslighting. And I knew he was lying to me. It was like the timbre of his voice. It was when I could tell, like, when he was talking to his parents about something, like in our life or whatever, and he didn't want to exactly tell them everything. Like, if they were asking questions, maybe that weren't any of their business, and he would kind of like, there's just like a tone shift. And I was like, I was like, I know you're lying to me. And also, I knew I had said something insane, and I didn't have any evidence,
Right.
nothing. I mean, I couldn't even say, well, Friday night, I felt like nothing.
Wow. As a somatic practitioner in training, I'm really intrigued by the tiny kitchen
Yep.
dances.
Those movement practices were instinctual, healing and grounding, and ways to invite people to be in witness of me. Not a performance. I certainly have that in me as a performer, but these are not a performance. There's nothing performative about them on my end. So I guess I started them actually. I tried to start them in 2019. I made an intention, inspired by a friend of mine who's a visual artist who painted something every day for, I think, maybe she did it for a year, but it might have only been a month. Whatever it was, I was inspired by her. And I decided I was going to do a dance in my kitchen every day for a year. I started that in January of 2019. Right around March of 2019, an administrator at the school where I worked as a kindergarten teacher called me in for a meeting, a woman who I respect, admire, and love, and told me, "Jen, you can't do these."
Wow.
And this is actually an important piece of the story. And at that point, I looked at her and I said, "Why? What do you mean?" And of course, I had tears in my eyes. I was very vulnerable, very tender. This is very early on in my story. Um, and she said, "It's too vulnerable. If parents see them, you're saying too many things." And at that point, I was saying almost nothing. I
Right.
was saying I was hurting. I was not speaking about domestic violence. I was not speaking about rape. I was speaking almost nothing. But I was in no place strong enough to stand up and tell her what I was doing. I didn't really know what I was doing. It was instinct. It was meditation. It was being. She referenced that I was performing for the camera. And I do remember saying, "No, it's not a performance."
Right. Right.
Um, so I went home and I deleted the whole project.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Intense and
Mm.
I spent the rest of that year still dancing, but feeling like I had failed in my plan to do this project. Like, what was it even? Why was I doing it? Was it a performance? So, as painful as that was, it kind of looped me back right into my chest, like hard and fast. And I had to come to a lot of questions for myself that I had to answer. No one else could answer those questions. And um, I thought a lot about it, and I thought many things that if I had been singing a song, if I had been playing the guitar and I wrote a song about how sad I was and I was playing it, I'm pretty sure no one would have said anything.
Right.
I'm pretty sure if I had been a man, no one would have said anything. I think that the incredible vulnerability of having a female body in space and speaking that things were not okay. Like not being, false positive, not no icky sticky, like and really like I was not being very specific at all at this point either, but I was saying, I'm sad, things are hard.
Right. I
That
mean,
was,
right.
right,
Right.
right.
It's pretty general. Yeah.
It was pretty general.
Yeah.
Very, very, very general. So I am actually super grateful for that experience, as painful as it was. I came back January of 2020. I didn't go ask permission. I didn't let her know, I hear you, but I'm going to do these anyway. No, I just started again.
Wow.
Um,
Amazing. Amazing.
yeah. So they really started in earnest, I guess, January of 2020. And I had an intention for myself to do them for a year. And that year was a leap year. So there was an extra day. So it was 366
Wow.
days. And my plans,
Oh, I
plans are
know. I
hilarious.
know. I was just saying that the other day. I'm like, yeah, I know. I make a plan and then I'm like, I just know now that it's going to change and I'm okay with that today. But for many, many years, I was like, what do you mean the plan has changed? It has to
Right.
stay. I'm like, no, it's just going to just know that the plan will change. Make a plan, but
Yeah.
it will change. Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
a plan and then go with the flow.
That's right. That's right.
So my plan was to, at the end of that year, take all of the material and make a quote unquote real dance out of the material.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I was going to ask my community, both fellow dancers, musicians, painters, like, people in my community, friends who maybe wouldn't consider themselves artists, just my people. I was going to say, hey, Megan, can you take January 1st to January 15th and tell me what you see? Like, there's no requirements other than you write something, tell me what you see. I had an idea that, of course, from dancers, I would get back, movement motifs that they saw. Maybe from, a painter, they might be like, you wore blue every day. Like what would I get back? And then I would
Right.
take all of that feedback and refilter it through my lenses and create a score. Sometimes we refer to movement as a score as well. So to create a movement score, create a dance, create a piece um, that I thought would be, I thought that would be the art.
Oh, interesting. Right. Like it has to
Mhm.
come in a certain I feel that like, oh, there's like this idea like it has to be in a certain container to be X, Y, or Z. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, I was trained in a very well regarded conservatory fashion at a very well regarded school, and in my training was I guess I would say very traditional. And, I was given a picture that has since expanded, which is part of growing and choosing for yourself. But, that dance, being a dancer was a certain kind of thing. Being an artist was a certain kind of thing. That, there was bad art and good art. And that, sort of noodling around in my kitchen with no real purpose was not art.
Mm,
And, it's been interesting to have those conversations with people and with myself. And I think it will be a continuing conversation, but I think where I stand now for myself is I don't think, one of my tiny kitchen dances is necessarily art. There might be one every like 6 months where I'm like, whoa, I did some good stuff. That stands alone as a piece of art. Um, I think that they stand for me as art in their collective.
right. Right.
And I mean, we can have the conversations, which of course, I've been having my whole life, and philosophy classes on art, etc. Like, what is art? Um, but if we're saying like I'm going to say what I think it is, like for me, I've come to a place where early on, I speak about this in the film actually with my mentor and teacher from my childhood, and still a mentor and teacher to me for always. I speak to her about like, hey, like I'm doing this kind of funny thing in my kitchen. Like it's not really art, but feel free to watch it. And she was one of the very first people saying to me, Jen, these are incredible. This is art. What you are doing. I think she was telling me I should copyright it, which I was like, I don't even know. Can you do that?
Right.
Like,
Like, what are you talking about?
what are you talking about? I'm really tired and I'm making myself dance in my kitchen even though I'm tired. You know, and but in some ways like that buoyed my questioning for myself. Also, of course, there was, an ego buoy of like, look at you doing, art. Look at
Right.
me doing art.
Right. Right.
Even while I was like, is it art? And like, I don't know. So um that's a very long-winded answer to your question of how did the tiny kitchen
No,
dances get started?
I think it's fascinating. Because what I also heard in there was this, like standing for yourself or learning and trusting your own instincts, and that's a
Yes.
journey, especially given the story. It's certainly been a
Hmm.
journey for me, very different story but related. Very, different particulars for sure. But yeah, that's been a real journey for me to learn to like trust myself, to stand for myself just with myself even,
Yep.
and not, you know, um, have someone tell me who I am kind of thing, or what it is I'm doing here, and and just do it no matter what. So yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of that in there, so I appreciate you sharing all of that.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that. I think if you were to look and catalog which song I dance to most, it's Stand By Me.
Hmm.
And there are a couple points where I speak about that song, and I'm sure I will come back to it. I love cover songs, and there are many incredible covers of that song. My favorite will always be Tracy Chapman's version, followed by Florence and the Machine. But that song, I think in a traditional sense, I mean, I haven't asked Ben Eking, he's not around anymore, who wrote it, like, but I believe it's, hey, speaking to someone else outside of you, stand by me. Um, and there are some of my writings that say, this song for me has come to be me speaking to myself, like I'm saying to myself, stand by me, you know, and I do, and I keep standing by myself, and that is really powerful. And it is hard work. It takes incredible effort. It takes incredible dedication and rededication. Um, and the more I have done that, um, the more I feel the importance of it. It's kind of I guess for me at this point, it's really the thing. Like,
Right. Right.
there is, I mean, we always say you have to love yourself first. Like there are these like platitude kind of sayings. Um, and uh they're not easy. Like just love yourself first and then others will love you. If you think you're beautiful, others will think you're beautiful. Like, ugh.
Right. Right.
It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
okay, but how do we actually do that? How
Hmm.
do we offer ourselves permission as opposed to seeking outside permission to love ourselves, to prioritize ourselves?
Yeah.
And that is a big thing, I think, for lots of people in general, but for women,
Sure.
it's a huge, huge thing.
Yeah. I think for me, I know a lot of that. I mean, a lot of that journey it's been twofold, but one of them was writing a book. And in the process of that, claiming my story and talking about the relationship abuse, the domestic violence,
Hmm.
you know, um, working through like, oh, well, it wasn't bad enough to qualify, all of those kinds of stories
Right.
that sort of feel like, and then the fear of like, I can't say this out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And working through that just in the writing of it, you're expressing it through the dance. And for me, as a like writing is where I work things out first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's where I was able to work it through, at least
And
in
did you write it by hand or did you type it?
well, both. I've written large chunks like in journals or,
Hmm.
if was working something out, it was very much by hand. So I'm a big believer in that. It's a much more direct line to like what's really the truth for me is when I
Hmm.
put pen to paper, not typing. Typing is where I kind of craft it into like for someone else to read kind of thing, but the raw
Yeah.
like this is what's happening for me comes out in the pen to paper for sure. Yeah.
The reason I asked you that is because I am also a Waldorf teacher, and in Waldorf pedagogy, children learn to write before they actually learn to read.
Oh,
So we teach
interesting.
them, and some children just learn to read more naturally. Like there are children, like I have a niece who started reading at 4 on her own, but children in first grade in Waldorf schools are taught to write, and they're taught. We still teach cursive, um, and the reason is because it's somatic, because it's movement based, and because movement. So, as a dancer, as an educator, etc., movement brings speech.
Mm,
So, movement is the precursor to speech.
yes.
And so it's super important. So we talk about development, like, so it's like, so when I asked you that, it's like you're somatically healing, particularly when
Yes.
you're writing.
Yes.
Like that is movement. You're dancing on your page.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because when I had a conversation with Laura, we talked about her process as a creative, filmmaker,
Yeah.
becoming a doc, now doing documentary, like how'd that happen?
Right.
And we were talking about that, and in that conversation, I referenced relationship abuse, domestic violence, and I remember just feeling like, oh, like, and I've this is part of my journey and my healing, and I'm all about like I don't want to not talk, I want to talk about it, and I have no
Right.
problem in many ways talking about it, and then there's always that little moment of like, oh no, and one of the things we talked about is like, and I was thinking about that today, it's important for me to talk about it. And also, then I'm part of me is like, but I don't want to only talk about that because there's more about
Right.
me than just that. And yet, it's
Right.
important I talk about that because nobody, to help other people who can't talk about that. So, yeah,
Right.
it's,
Well, I
yeah.
said to a friend today, I called a friend to have a chat, and I said, I feel like I'm in a place now where I'm not bifurcating myself anymore. Like I feel much more integrated in like this is a part of me and I do speak about it. It comes up, I do reference it. And like it's really hard like when I say like, well, I was in a domestic violence situation and people go, "Oh, well did your children witness him hurting you?" And I go, no. And I didn't know he was hurting me. And they go, what? So in my case, like
Right.
it's such an un, I say unusual. And to be honest, I'm going to be really clear. It's actually not that unusual, I'm afraid to say. Sorry to say, not afraid to say. So anyway, so it brings more questions and people get kind of really weirded out. And it's just better for me to be like, so here's the thing.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, just go straight through the front door, as
yeah,
someone used to
because
say.
otherwise I spend a lot of time being like, so it's not that. And they're like, okay, but well, then what could it be? And what I have realized more and more in my life as I have understood who I am, as I have understood what being an empath, not just being empathic, what being an empath is, I had no idea what that was. I've done a lot of learning. I realize very, very often, I won't say always, but very often, my gut instinct is spot on. I work really hard not to make judgments only from that place. I work really hard to say, oh, I'm noticing that. and especially now, like that I have been like rolling back in my life and I've been like, that was spot on, that was spot on, that was spot on. I didn't have evidence, but that was spot on. And so the place that I live now, like the standing by me piece, is like my gut instinct. I call it pinging. And when there's a ping, it can be about something beautiful. It can
Right.
be like I've just met somebody and it doesn't, like some people are like, oh, romantically. And I'm like, no, no, like not just that. Like that has been something that's happened. I was like, but no, just with people. And I'm like, it's this little knock at my interior door that says, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. And sometimes it's a little like scritch, scritch, like pay attention and like step over this way for a minute, you know? um, and then I try to wrap, my intellectual understanding into, a collaborative conversation with my intuition. And, I am often right. Like, and what
Yeah.
that means, like right for myself, like what is right. But just to speak, I was right about what was happening to me before I had any evidence. And some people say to me, well, why didn't you say to him, you're lying to me, like I know you're doing something to me. And I can 100% guarantee you that I would have gotten nowhere with that.
Right. Yeah, no,
Nowhere.
no, yeah. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yes, yes, check, 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 check. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were talking about the cup of tea, it brought back, it's something I don't remember very often. I don't think about very often. And it wasn't nearly, I mean, not even remotely at that scale. But I just remember one time, he gave me a cup of tea and he had put, like cannabis oil in there, like super strong.
Hmm.
And I was like, but didn't tell me. And I was so fucked up and I was like, what is, like, I had no idea. I thought like like what, I've lost my mind, like what is happening to
Right.
me, like I can't function. And then he's like, oh yeah, I mean I would put cannabis oil. I'm like, well, what the, like, and I just, then I just had to like write it out, but I was so messed up for like a whole day. I'm like,
Huh.
what is even happening here? And I couldn't connect the dots in my own self to be like, that's not a good, like, that's not good. Like, it's like somebody who would do that that's not good situation. Hell, like, you should probably leave. But it doesn't work like that. It's not that
It
simple, but
doesn't work like that. And I mean,
no.
to speak, like I found all of these things in January of 2015. I told him I found everything. He said, what do you mean? And then I said, don't what do you mean me? I found all the videos, all of them, and I've watched them all. And he finally said, okay, I understand. And I said, don't come home. But then I did amazing, wild work to dance around getting him his things that he needed from the house, having the children. I just told them, he's really busy at work, which wasn't, like, but I couldn't tell them that for more than about a week, which was not, I mean, like, honestly, like, he often came home late at night and left early in the morning. So, like, it was like, that was okay. They were young enough. And I knew I couldn't maintain that, but I, I had him come over every day to be with the children so that they had normalcy. Because my primary everything, as I remembered, I mean, like my brain, I'm sure was just like pure cortisol,
Sure.
like, but what I can say, my memories of that time, there's a lot of them, but the biggest one being I have to protect my children. They cannot, and at this point, like I'm thinking they cannot know that this ever happened in the world, like in their home, like this would break my children to that their father is doing this to their mama. Like
Right.
I will do anything. I will lay down on hot coals. I don't care what I have to do to protect my children. So, I'm bending over backwards and, um, told him, find a therapist, I'll meet you there. Did that, like, and then, I mean, there's much more in here, but like, I invited him to come home. and
Hmm.
reconcile in May
Yeah.
of that year. So we're looking at 4 months. And I I am not, nor have I ever been a pushover. None of my friends will tell you that I have been, like, I'm not a like it's not like I was choosing and I was fierce about it. And I mean, I had friends, early on who I told who said, "Jen, you have to change the locks. You have to like." And I said, "No." I said, "I am going to do the hard work to look at this from the standpoint of an unwell person who needs therapy, and we're going to do this together. And I am going to be so fucking good and so fucking shiny and so amazing. And, the best human, the best wife, the most like I'm going to do this work because I can." And I did.
Right.
To my own detriment in many ways, of course. And, I think part of, I had very close, very strong, very capable humans who were saying to me, "Okay, you're choosing this." And of course, what else were they going to say? Like,
Right.
I
Right.
wasn't like, no one was going to change my mind. I was, going to do this. I mean, like, I'm an upper middle class white woman in Brooklyn who owns a limestone townhouse.
Right. Right.
Like, I mean, that plays in here in that, like, people think like the picture of domestic violence, what does it look like? There is no picture. It is a big black scribble, and many of us are standing behind that scribble. And we don't look one way or another, and we don't have one, income or another. We don't have one religion or another. We don't, there is no picture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually uh one of the inspirations for me, my big why of why I'm doing any of what I'm doing is that, we're, whatever our stories are, but specifically in this category, because that's near and dear to my heart and my experience for
Mhm.
sure. So it's especially important to me. And yet, like, it doesn't, even outside of that particular window of things, there's so, like, I've talked to several women with breast cancer, for example, and their journey, each of them completely different from the other.
Mhm.
Right. So it's sort of like that feeling of there is no broad brush. We can't just do a stroke and this is what it looks like.
No,
And I think
no.
I find often, because I'll bring it up a lot, over dinner conversations. I'm like, because I just, if it comes up, if I hear, I'm like, yeah, I need to step in and say, I was that woman and this is why I didn't leave.
Yep.
I get that doesn't make any sense, and yet it made perfect sense to me. It felt like I felt incapable of doing anything different in that moment.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean I wasn't capable of doing something different. I
No.
felt incapable of doing it any other way in that moment.
And we
And
chose not to. I mean, like, I
yeah,
made choices. Like, I mean, there are biological pieces to this. There are sociological pieces to this. There are society. I mean, it's all of it.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, and we're not a monolith. I mean, like,
no,
this is the thing. Like, you keep reminding people, like, survivors are not a monolith.
right, right. Yeah, and I just know that it's very difficult. I mean, I can see it so often in people's, like, just body language, and they don't know what to do. And I'm like, just, you don't have to do anything. Just be here.
No.
Just
Yep.
be there. It's all good. Like,
Yeah. I don't need you to do
I
anything.
don't.
I don't need you to
Yes.
save me. I don't need a
Right.
cookie. Like, maybe
Right.
I do need a cookie. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very much that. And I think that is like at this point, like I've stepped past, I'm like, if people are shocked, they're shocked. Okay. Like you can be shocked,
Right.
but I'm not gonna stop like speaking like when people say something or, when people make jokes. Like for instance, people joke about like children and giving them Benadryl so they'll sleep on the plane. And I'm like, I have to tell you. that that is something that I think is awful. Like, don't do that. And here's why. That is like, that taps at my chest. Let me tell you why. And like when people make jokes about like, yeah, Thanksgiving when grandma comes, I'm spiking the pie so she takes a nap. It's
Right.
not funny.
Not
It's not
funny.
funny.
No.
It's not funny. And like I'll go as, I go even further. I say to people, I say, this is part of, rape culture. All of this taps into rape culture. I said, you want to go further than that? Back to me being a Waldorf teacher. I don't know how much you know about Waldorf education, but particularly in early childhood, we tell fairy tales to children. It's all oral storytelling tradition. And I actively speak to parents when they're in my classroom. I say, I do not tell stories where princesses are won. I do not tell stories where princesses are kissed awake.
Yeah.
And there are people who have gotten close enough to me, like who know my story. I don't just tell my story to everybody in my classroom, although like, if parents get wind of it, like I will have a conversation with them. But I say, I do often reference, this is a part of my background that has led me to really study this. And, we are indoctrinating children to be okay with rape culture. I was like, that's what this is. I was like, and I won't tell those stories.
Yeah.
I said, there are many beautiful stories. I said, also, you can tell a story and you can shift it. Like people are like, but we'll lose these beautiful fairy tales we love, Sleeping Beauty, etc. I say, you know what? You can shift that fairy tale and Sleeping Beauty can wake up by herself.
Right. Right.
Let her
Yes.
wake herself up, shift the narrative.
Right. Because I mean, that's your, to what we were just talking about in terms of stand by yourself, stand by me, myself, by my, for
Yes.
me. It's like, yeah, I can take, I can hold myself. I can wake myself up. I don't need, I don't need to be
Yeah.
woken
I don't
up.
need
Yeah.
true love
To
to
wake me
wake
up.
I to
Yeah.
wake me up. And I can wake up and like do I tell stories? Do I shift them so that perhaps people choose each other? Like whether it's a man and a woman or otherwise, I certainly change the fairy tales to be like two women too, which sometimes gets me in trouble. But you can shift them and still have the power of the fairy tale. Yeah, I am so adamant about that. Like people say, like, well, it's the archetypes. And I say, it's not. I was like, you need to like do a little more pulling apart. I was like, you're actually talking about stereotypes and you're talking about grooming. I was like,
Right.
we are stories, our stories, so to speak, like the film. Like what I have said through like blubbering tears whenever I'm asked to speak, maybe I'll figure out how not to cry when accepting an award, but I'm not sure. I might have to revert to interpretive dance for everyone's sake. But what I have said both times I've spoken through like blubbers is something along the lines of tell your stories. It's so important. Don't look behind you for the stories of others. I was like, we are the fairy tale. And
Mm,
so, like, tell your story. You are the fairy tale.
yes.
And I believe that so deeply. Like, when you look at, fairy tales, they were oral storytelling tradition. They were carried down. They shifted over time because they were told by voices of humans. And then, the Grimm's brothers collected. I mean, there's many, many fairy tales, but let's just talk about those. The Grimm's
Sure.
brothers collected them, which is beautiful in written form, but it stagnates them.
Right. It holds them in time. Yeah. It puts
It
now they're like fixed.
Yep,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
fixed in time.
Yes.
And so, like I will argue until I'm blue in the face, and I have, that it is okay to change those stories to meet. We know better now, do better. We know better, and we can do better for ourselves. We're modeling, it's modeling, and we are telling stories so that children know the world is good and they know what the world looks like. The archetypes, they know what the archetypes look like. Well, if those stories are what we're telling, if we're telling the stories where the women's role is to be one, the women's role is to be beautiful, the women's role is to have golden hair, the women's role is to be kissed awake, I don't want any part of that world.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, no. Yeah. I'm with you. I
Yeah.
agree. That's
Yeah.
why, I mean, that's why, for me, I'm like, I want us to tell our own stories, and I want to help
Hmm.
facilitate that any which way I can. In all these different places, different formats, different ways. Increasingly, we're just telling our stories. And I think that's really exciting. And I'm really excited and inspired
Hmm.
by you and your courage. And, I mean, I know, I can't even imagine that particular journey. I just can speak from my own. And I know that that was hard enough. So yeah, yeah.
Wow. Thank you. I
Hmm.
mean, I think, I have reflected back to me. I'm able to take it in, I think, with less discomfort. It's an interesting thing, like um, being complimented is hard. It's hard for me, and I think it's hard for a lot of women in particular. Um, but I've been working for the past probably like 5 years, and I'm getting better at it. When people tell me like, "Gosh, you're so pretty," or "Gosh, you're so brave," or what, whatever it is, and instead of saying, "Oh, thank you," that's no, I go, "Thank you," and like hold my
Yeah.
hands,
Yeah.
like,
I had someone,
you
so I was,
know.
yeah, like it was like almost 20 years ago. I had someone say that to me, like a mentor of mine at the time. She said, anytime someone gives you a compliment, just say thank you. And I remember I thought it was going to kill me. I
Yes.
was like you're, like I think I'm gonna die. Like, don't, like, can I not? She's like, no,
Right.
just say thank you
Just say thank you.
and take it in. And I was like, ugh. And then I realized at a certain point, I sort of started overthinking. Um, where I,
Imagine that.
right, I know. I was like, okay, now I kind of took that and went to the other extreme of it, where I was almost like, thank you for letting me be here. It was almost
Uh-huh.
a mental flip around. It was weird.
Right.
And I only recently, this past year, recognized that. It was interesting. I was
Right.
like, oh, I actually say thank you too much. Like, there are some things
Right.
I can just let them be. I don't have to,
Yeah.
say, oh, give props back all the time. So there's
Right.
some of that too. So that's been an interesting, like, evolution of the thank you. But yes, I understand that feeling of like what?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that, like, yes, like that, it doesn't always have to be a mirror. Like, you don't have to reciprocate in kind immediately at all times. Like, it's like somebody just handed you a little cookie, and like, you can just eat your cookie.
Right.
Like, it's okay. But gosh, it's so hard. And, I think I'm getting better at it, but yeah, like it's very, like with this film, it's been an experience for me of um you know s- people seeing it and coming, like friends seeing it, and that I sent it to, before, we were at the festivals, um and coming to me, like I can take that in. It's mostly from a distance, and it's like people I really know. Like I can take that in a different way. Like they've known the story. Like it's just like some of them are in the film. Like and then there's like going to these festivals, that we've gone to. We've gone to two. So far. We're heading to our third in 2 weeks, and then hopefully more. And it's very different to experience the film, first of all, on a big screen, as opposed to my computer screen or my phone. um, you know, and it's different to sit there. I'm curious too, like this next screening will be a couple of people I know, but mostly no one I know.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, so that may, I'm curious to see, like my experience has been like both of my homes. It's screened in Brooklyn, in my home of 18 years, and it's screened here in Asheville, where I grew up and where I've moved back. So there's a warmth and a holding there that's a little different. And even that, sitting like it, just like soaking up both the like beauty of this film, like what Laura has done, like she's created such a beautiful vision of me. Like it's like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and as someone who can be hypercritical of herself, I mean, I'll be honest, the bags under my eyes, I'm like, do I need a lower blepharoplasty? Like, whoa,
Right. No, I hear
okay,
you.
like, oh, but also like, actually, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, and but you know, then the film ends and um I have people coming to speak to me, and then I have the people who I can see, like I'm pretty aware, you know, and I see people standing like looking at me, like the people that probably want to say something but don't know how to say something, you know, and most of the people are crying when they come to speak to me.
Yeah.
Many, you know, men and women crying, asking if they can hug me. Um, I have said yes every time so far. I mean, like I like to be hugged and I like to hug people. So, but the women, for the most part, you know, reference some story of their own or deep gratitude or, you know, I'm so brave and, you know, and they're like, the film was so beautiful. And they go, oh my gosh, and I'm so sorry. And it's like this, it's like a push me, pull you.
Yes.
And the thing is, it is like, and that's what I'm like, it's part of why I feel it's so important as much as possible for me to be present when the film is shown. And that will clearly not always be possible, and especially with our hopes for the film to have a wide audience. But right now, as we're kind of tending it, like in its like babyhood out into the world,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, you're shepherding it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I feel very fierce about sitting there, even though, like, I mean, I'm kind of vibrating, like, even like physically, like, it's like I'm listening to myself tell my story again. And of course, like, for me, there's like 100,000 pages beyond what is on that screen.
Sure.
So I'm living like a whole nother life too. And like reconnecting, like every time I watch the film, there's something that stands out again. Like today, I was speaking to my friend and saying, when I watched it this weekend, and I speak about, I'm standing there in the dance studio, and the voiceover part is me saying, I remember wanting to disappear. And I say, and I wasn't suicidal in a typical, and then I talk to myself, which I do a lot. If you talk to me, you realize I go, huh, I kind of question myself. And I said, you hear me say, well, what is a typical? Because there's no such thing as a typical way to be
Yeah.
suicidal, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as a typical way to be a survivor of domestic, like, there's no such thing. There's, you know, but I say that, and I thought about it, and I was like, I really almost died. Like I
Mm-hmm.
almost and have spoken about this a few times, you know, with friends and recently in some of my posts. I became effectively anorexic. I lost so much weight. I wasn't eating at all, and like I wasn't hungry. And that's something like when I am very, very anxious or very stressed out, that happens to me. But like this was to such an extreme. And I knew that I wasn't healthy, but I also was like, well, it's okay, like I'm not gonna die, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
And I made an appointment in the winter of 2019, early winter, probably January or February, with a dear friend who had been the doula at my son's birth. She was there when he was born. She was my massage therapist, a good friend. And I called her to make a massage therapy appointment. And I told her, I said, Kim, I said, I just want to tell you, my body looks pretty rough. Like you've seen my body before, and I just want to give you a heads up that like I'm really, really skinny, and it might be a little shocking to you. And so I was aware, but in a like kind of far away place. And I remember laying down on the table, and that Kim started weeping. And she said to me, she said, Jen, she said, your body is shutting down. She's like, you have to eat something or you're gonna die.
Mm.
She
Yeah.
said, you're gonna die and your children are not going to have a parent. And so I actually contacted Kim on Sunday afternoon after the film screening because I don't think I ever told her that.
Mm.
And I didn't. She was in Mexico City, and I was texting her and I said, I think you saved my life.
Wow.
And she said, Jen, she said, thank you. She's like, I think you saved your own life. And I said, okay. I said, I think you're correct about that. I said, I chose, but I said, I trusted you enough to come and be with you in a state that I knew was not healthy. And I let you reflect something really painful back to me. And then you checked on me every day and asked me what I'd eaten for weeks.
Right. Yeah. No, I think, yeah, I mean, I hear in there, something I can relate to as well, which is my version of that is like I just would pray for death. Like I was like, please God, don't like I wasn't gonna do anything.
Right,
But every night I'm like, just kill me. Like just don't let me wake up. That was my sort
right,
of passive aggressive demand,
right,
really.
right, right.
um
It's like if I
and
die of a broken heart, then like people
right,
will take care of my kids, and then which of course that I mean, yes,
right.
they would have been taken care of, but no, like that's not the answer. But
Right, right.
you
And
know,
I just,
just
and this idea of, I think I also hear in there, some that part of you that did want to live, like,
yeah.
and, had this window and like went to the one person or, it's like that, no, that knock, that ping,
Mm-hmm.
and you have this community of people who
Mm-hmm.
then were, this woman who's then checking up on you like every day.
Yep.
What you eat,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So, I'm alive, because I chose to be when I wanted to disappear. I think Kim is right to reflect that back to me. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not, like we can be held up, and I have been held up to an incredible degree by an incredible number of people. I mean, just in the film, you see me naming the people that came to court with me. That was, I think, 40 people. Um, that number is easily, I could triple or quadruple that number. I could name those people for you right now. I mean, I had 40 of those people in court with me.
Wow,
Like
amazing. Yeah.
something that has not been done. Like I have never heard of that being done. The district attorney who had my case, Glenn, like I asked her, I was like, so what's like early on, what's the deal with people being in court? And she was like, well, it's an open courtroom, like there will be other cases waiting, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, so anybody can come. And she's like, yeah. And I said, okay. And
Here's
I
40
said,
people.
great. And I did. I told her, I said, Gwen, I said, I'm gonna have 40 people in court that day. And she said, what? And I said, yes. And she goes, oh, um, okay. And I said, it's legal. And she goes, yes, but no one does that. And I
Right.
said, I hear you. And she goes, I'm going to just give the judge a heads up about that because it's really unusual. And I said, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so our court appearance, like we had been told it would be a 9 a.m. court appearance. And then like 2 days before, they changed it to, I think, like 2:30 in the afternoon. And what I realized was that they did that they cleared a floor in Brooklyn, New York.
Wow. Wow.
They cleared a whole floor, and there were 7 court officers. Normally, so to give a context, my baby brother is an assistant district attorney in Manhattan, and my other baby brother is a cop in Tennessee. So they're
Wow.
familiar.
Yes.
They're familiar with, so they're like, so there's usually two. They're like, there are 7. And I was like, what did I think I'm gonna do?
Right.
Like, but cool. Um, and there's they had a victim advocate, a really kind woman. I believe her name was Catherine. But none of the things that she had to offer me did I need. I had those things. I had access to a therapist. Like I didn't need food stamps. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful that there's something, but it encompasses a very narrow view of what is needed. And Catherine came up to me and said at the end after we left court and said, I want you to hear this, that I have never seen anything like this done before, and we need to take note because this is what should be happening.
Right. Having 40 people in the room. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, even 5 people, like
Right.
whatever
But
it is, whatever
having
you're,
your people there with you to, like,
yes,
literally back you up and
yes,
just be present, like
saying
just
like,
holding the space by being present.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because what we've done is we've taken, the village who, held, the principles of the community and would say to, an offender, so to speak, whatever it is that a person had done, would say to the, it was the collective, it was the tribe, it was the communal, like standing there. And now we've taken that and we have isolated it into this cold, inhumane place. And I mean, I think that's a huge piece of why people do not come forward, why women do not come forward. I mean, that's a huge conversation, but
Mm-hmm.
it's certainly a piece of mine. And I am like the 3%
Yeah.
of women who report rape. I mean, like reporting marital rape is even less.
Right.
And he's been convicted. He didn't
Right.
go to prison, but again, I'm like the tiniest sliver of the pie chart. Like in in the scheme of things, I won.
Right. Right. No, that's a huge, yeah. I mean, you're right.
Yeah. And the fact that I had to do everything I had to do to get to that point and that was a win. That is where the systems have to shift.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's been another recurring theme is this theme of community.
Mhm.
Um, whether it's the presence or absence or the kind, and in very all these different ways and shapes and forms, that has been a constant of no matter what any of these women I've talked to have walked through. It's this being buoyed or surrounded by and held by
Mhm.
however big or small it is, and or the notable absence of that and the difficulty of that not having that and the longing for
Mhm.
that, right?
Mhm.
Has been a really like striking, unsurprising on one hand. It's because I have the great privilege and benefit of having a very good, strong community of my own. So I feel, but I've had to work at, of building that, but also of even within that, not feeling alone, like
Mhm.
allowing myself to receive the love from them and being held
Right.
by them for different reasons all over across the board over the years. But yeah, this sort of, that I think is the most, Mm, like the most powerful thing that we can bring as a big chunk of the solution to a lot of different things, but certainly this particular issue that's so lonely and isolating, I certainly
Mhm.
feel can feel very alone because people either like, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to back off, or I want to, I can't wrap my head around this, or I want to argue with it, or whatever it might be. Um, it's really interestingly to me very simple. Like you don't need to do anything. Just
Just be.
be here
Right.
with me and next to me around whatever. Like I just don't leave me
Mhm.
alone. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
Hmm.
that's one of the things I think I refer to, often is being in witness. Like, and I've invited, for me, I invited people on the internet, like
Right.
to be in witness of me, to be with me. And part of that was me taking me back. Part of it, like for me, is taking back the filming portion of
Right.
things. Like,
Right.
um,
For
that
sure.
was that was very explicit for me, taking my body in film back in some way. That was taken from me without permission in a really violent and vulgar way. And so taking that back and asking, offering myself very vulnerably, I think, but also then like realizing, like, yes, learning even to say, like, I'm asking you to be here, and I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm not
Right.
asking you like to give me advice. I mean, sometimes maybe I am, but mostly I'm just asking you to stand here with me and tell me you're not alone. We see you, and one of the things, I have learned about myself in recent years as I've gone through this too is that oftentimes I think in the past I've shown up as a friend who wants to help fix anything that's broken for my friends. Like, I want to help you fix it. Like, I want to problem solve it. And there's like that's admirable in some ways, but I think I am hoping that I'm learning to be someone who shows up um less with um my mouth already going trying to fix something for someone and trying to say, I'm here with you. Um, I want to be here with you. I see you. Do you want, me to speak to you? Are you looking for solutions or are you looking for solace? Are you like like
Mm-hmm.
finding a way, not to arrive with a notion of my own importance in caring for someone. Like there's such a depth of care, but also like the ego can really overtake what is needed just to be present and in witness. Um, there's a time for action, but I think it's rare that that is super immediate in most situations. Like most situations, really, I'm learning. I think I am like not grateful for what happened to me. That would be a lie.
Right.
Um, when people are like, everything happens for a reason, I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah. Like,
And
no, thank
fuck
you. Yeah.
fuck you very hard in a way that is unpleasurable to
Right.
you.
Right.
Like,
Right.
mhm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, no. So that don't care for that. But
Yeah.
I do, I had a partner, a man who asked me if I could go back or if he came like and not in a like he was going to save me kind of way, like this was an appropriate welcome conversation,
Right.
but like our paths had crossed unknowingly actually many years ago, and he's like, what if I had like shown up at your door as like a time traveler and like, and I said, I thought about it. Like he asked me that one night as we were going to bed, and then I was like, i don't I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna think about that. And we talked about it again the next day, and I said, I do not think I would have changed my trajectory. I really like, uh, I'm not telling you I wanted any of this to happen. I said, but I just can't imagine who I would be right now without that. Like it has informed me in ways that have made me beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It has informed the way that I participate in community and society. It has informed the way I allow myself to take up space. It has informed the way I ask for help. And could I have gotten there by another means? Gosh, I hope so, but I don't know. And
Right.
as I stand here now, like I'm grateful to be here. I like myself. I am proud of myself. I have two beautiful children who I am honored to be their mama. I have, I'm living a life that is hard. I mean, I can tell you the repercussions of burning my own house down are intense still, financially, etc. But I wouldn't trade it either.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think about that a lot. I'm like, there's a lot that, I don't know how I would hope, like you said, that I would have gotten to where I am now, but this is how I got here. So that's the part that I have gratitude for. That piece of it, right? Like that
Right.
I was able to take that then and arrive at the work. I mean, I worked my ass off. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
Right.
I relate to like it wasn't like I just woke up like this. It's
No.
fine. No, like
No.
it's still not fine. And
No.
but I can very much go with flow today, like in a way that I don't even recognize myself. I'm like, who is this person? And
Yeah.
it's because that required to heal, that required so much work that I was willing to do. And the net result of that is who I am now. And I'm very proud. I too am very proud of who that is today. And
Yeah.
I feel good about that. But
Yeah.
no, I didn't want that to happen. And yet,
No, I mean, you can't, it's like all of those pieces are just so finely connected somehow or another, for better and for worse. And I don't think you can, you know, necessarily choose which pieces of your, warp, like if you're talking about like weaving, your warp and your weft, like if you pull out too many pieces of the warp, well, the weft falls apart. Like it's,
right.
and then what are you left with? And it's a little bit like feeling like I've been in a boxing ring, like,
Mm,
getting like punched. Who are you? Ah, like getting back up, and like it's like having to answer that over and over again, like in a way, like what will you choose? And
mm,
like I think there's massive privilege too. Like I won't deny any of that. Like there's privilege that I stand on to have been able to, be in that ring and continue to get kind of punched out over and over again and stand up again and say, like, this is who I am. This is what I will choose. That is not the definition of me. You and your stupid fucking boxing gloves. Like, no,
right.
it's like
Right.
I am choosing this. I am choosing me. I am standing taller every minute. But it's like people when they talk about hope, they're like, well, we just gotta have hope. And I'm like, hope is not passive.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Hope is bloodied. Like hope is hard work and bloody knuckles, like scraping yourself, up the frickin' mountain. Like there's nothing passive about that.
Right. Right.
It
Yeah.
doesn't land.
No, it just yeah, yeah. I mean, I just always think I'm like, I didn't wake up like this, People like, what? I'm like, no, this is like a lot of work behind all of this, where
Right.
I am now. And it's not like I don't have I have days all the time. So it's not like I'm out of the woods and I'm fine now. Like it
No,
doesn't work. Like it
totally.
never works like that.
It does not.
So,
It does
but
not work like that. I mean, like, and I say to people, like, I continue to say, I'm like, I continue to speak, my truth. I'm like, so I'm on antidepressants now. And people are like, how's that going? I'm like, I don't know. It's only been 10 days, but I think it's a good thing to try. Like, they're like, is it because of like, the past year or the past like 10 years or because of what happened to you? And I'm like, actually, no, but I think it's a piece. And I don't think it's gonna fix me, but I'm on a journey here.
right,
And I think that, we're talking about mental health, like that's a piece I'm gonna try. And I'd also like to, demystify that and like
yeah,
say like, yeah, I'm trying this because maybe it'll make me even more delightful.
right. It's one of the tools I've used. I mean, I started a year ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do all the things. People are like, you should try therapy. I'm like, listen, I don't think you understand. Okay. First, I'm like, really? I mean, I do all the things, so, is it, and I'm happy to. I mean, I mean, I'm to your point, I have the privilege of having the time and the ability to do all of those things.
Right.
That's not available to everyone. And, but I'm like, trust me, I've thrown the kitchen sink at all the things, because I really want to live like and that's what I'm hearing a lot in you is this, like, I want to, like, I was so close to not living.
Hmm.
I almost
Yeah.
died, physically died. like
Yeah.
emaciated. I want to live now. And I hear that drive to live and to give back and create a place of safety for others to approach you and give you that hug
Mhm.
and and be present with that. So I think that's just really, I mean, I think it's beautiful. I had one more we've talked offline, and I know that you're dating or have been dating or something about dating, and I'm like, how do you even do that? Like after
Yeah.
all of that happening, like how do you, like how does that work to even feel safe or trust someone else suddenly
Yeah.
in this very intimate way? I'm like, my mind blows. So yeah.
Well, January of 2020. Now let's remember what happened in March of 2020.
Right.
Okay, but so
Right.
January of 2020, I had sold my house. I had done all that work because while I was selling my house, there's an order of protection against my husband who co-owns the house with me, right? So I still have to get all these permissions and things signed, et cetera. And I'm doing all the work to clean the house, to show it, to sell it.
Wow.
I don't want to sell my house, but I have to, right? Anyway, so do that. My kids and I, move just before Christmas into what should have been a two-floor apartment. And we ended up moving into one floor because the other floor wasn't ready. Long stories there. But so we're basically in a one-bedroom apartment with a townhouse's worth of stuff.
Mm.
Okay, but I feel I am just like, I'm feeling like I am doing my work. I am so good. I am on my way. And I decide I'm going to get on the apps.
Uh-oh.
In January of 2020, I'm like, I have spent a good, at that point, like 18 months very purposefully, like not drinking. Almost like I wouldn't say I was totally not, but like not drinking at all, on almost at all, on purpose, because I was like, I want to be very sure that I don't like go down any paths. Like I know
Mhm.
I'm really stressed out. I know I'm like dealing with all this stuff. So I was like, I'm not going to drink at all. And I am absolutely like, I mean, I've been in, a relationship for 18 years, like, but I'm not gonna like seek, validation or, sex or like anything, like very
Yeah.
purposefully.
Mhm.
And so then very purposefully, I'm like, all right. It was almost like a study. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start dating. And I was like thinking to myself, last time I was dating, which I didn't even do a whole lot of dating, like, I was 21 when I met my husband. I didn't have a cell phone.
Right.
Like
Right.
not didn't have a smartphone, didn't have a cell phone.
Right.
Like that's
Yes.
how old I am.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, interesting. Anyway, I got on the apps and this is New York City and like, there's lots of options, I guess, but also I was like way overwhelmed by it and intrigued and like getting lots of attention. I guess I'd put up enough cute pictures. Um, so I went on my first date on his birthday in January of 2020, on my ex's
Oh,
birthday.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like kind of purposefully planned that.
Mhm.
It's like I'm taking dates back. And I went out on a date with this, and then of course, like I think, like retrospectively, um, I think people go out for like drinks or coffee on their first date, and I was like, hey, let's go for dinner. Which like I don't know, like, do we do that? I did that.
Right.
Um, and met this really nice man who we ended up having some funny connections, which is very me to like find the connections. Um, and we went on a couple of dates, and like he was cute. He was Irish, originally from Ireland, still had a little accent. Um, and I was totally excited to sleep with him. Like I was like, I mean, kind of a little scared too. Like I really, like um and to add, let's just, I like to be really honest here. The only
Yeah.
person I had ever, like, I had, sexual relations, heavy petting, things like that. But the only person I'd ever had sex with was my husband.
Wow. Mhm.
Right. I wasn't a virgin when I got married. Don't worry, not that girl. But like, I was a late bloomer, whatever. And so extra big, right? Really extra big for me.
Yeah. No, I was, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let's just make this is really big.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I had sex with this nice man a couple of times, went on a few dates, and then I met this other guy who I was like, ooh, I like him. And like kind of like dove into a relationship, which again, in retrospect, like I realized like he was kind of a love bomber, and then COVID happened, and so he sort of became my COVID boyfriend because I was like freaking out and we were all freaking out.
Right.
And he wasn't really that nice, and my kids didn't like him, and like it didn't last very long, but like, I was having sex with him. Um, I think a few things. One, I like sex.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good news. Not everybody likes sex, and
No,
that's
that's good
okay.
news. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so like I like having sex. I enjoyed that. All of that one thing, all that it can be.
Right.
And I I think felt it was a part of reclaiming myself. And I think that this is, kind of a like thing that people like it's like uncomfortable to talk about. But I think it's a weird thing to call it a gift, but I don't remember the assaults.
Right.
I watched them on video,
Mm.
and that's very painful and will live in my memory rent free for the rest of my life.
Right.
But and I'm sure, like, I understand the somatic implications. I understand there's trauma. I understand all of that. I honor that that is present, but there is a piece of grace offered to me
Mm-hmm.
in that I don't remember them aside from like like an outside perspective, which is pain.
Right. Right.
So there's body memory, etc. But anyway, there's some grace to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
So
think
it
that's
didn't
a
feel unsafe, or I mean, maybe it did. I don't know, but so it sounds like
no, I was having fun. I
right. That's what,
really,
like it felt. It
yeah,
sounds like because of that grace of not having a conscious memory within like, of this
yeah,
happening, that
yeah,
you are able to be free in your body with
yes.
someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's some grace to that,
Yeah.
like, so this is again to speak to the like, we're not a monolith.
Right.
And like when I speak this, I hope that other survivors hear, like, I'm not in any way saying, well, you should be fine. Like, no, it
Right.
is 100% a case by case basis. And who's to say there could be a point at which I do meet that in myself? I don't know,
Right.
and I have had some mediocre partners and a couple of one night stands, and like I'm kind of like living my life,
Right.
and
Right.
I've had, a recent partner who was really wonderful and really like met my needs in so many ways, and that getting to, you know, have sex be a joyful part of my life, have it be a silly part of my life, have it be an intimate part of my life. Um, and also, it's not the definition of my life. Like, at the same time as, what happened to me, with my horrifying ex, like, that is not the definition of me. It's like finding, sometimes when traumas happen, people dig in unhealthy ways. And it's like, I certainly could see where I could make, like healthy sex my whole like, personality.
Right.
And I'm glad to say it's not. But I am really glad to say that it is something I'm really grateful I enjoy and that has a place in my life. And am I just super trusting of all men? No.
Right.
I'm not. And I'm also not leery of men.
Right.
Like, someone asked me, they're like, well, do you feel less afraid? And I was like, I'm gonna stop you right there and let you know that I have never been afraid of him.
Were you afraid, like after, like as you're going through all the proceedings and the protective order and the
No,
case? Oh, interesting. So that you weren't afraid then to either of
I have
him.
never been afraid of him. You know, like I say to people, I'm like, I want to educate people on what leaving domestic violence situations look like, how dangerous it is for women. Like, you know, I would speak to people, I would say, you know, I have taken all of these steps. I have quote unquote taken everything from him. You know, he no longer has the work that he valued, the position that he valued because, you know, too many people got wind and, you know, like he has no access to his children because I blocked all of that. Like I have cornered him, and that is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And then I
Right.
have people who say, "Well, yeah, but he never hit you or anything." And I say, I hear you, and you're correct about that. I say, and um, statistics show that this is the most dangerous time. And he did collect knives all during our relationship, and he never ever threatened me physically. But I don't think he's a healthy person at all. And I'm going to tell you, no, I'm not actively afraid, but am I in danger? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that stands true now. Like, am I actively afraid? No. Do I think I will be actively afraid in 9 years when my criminal order of protection expires? No, I don't think I will be actively afraid, but I think that speaks to the like intuition, the pinging, and the intellect coming
Mm-hmm.
together.
Right.
I also will not downplay that it's real
Yeah.
and that I have, you know, pushed this person, rightfully so, into a corner. Um, so there's a certain amount of surrender
Mm-hmm.
that lives there because I won't live my life in fear. I won't live my life, um, I won't live a half life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's very much what I hear is someone living their life to the fullest, like embracing all of yourself and all of your life and having joy and enjoying your body. Like that's just
Yeah.
incredible to me. For me, when I was much younger, there was also assault when I was like a teenager.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, that's always been like the dangers. Like the danger was always like my body was the danger,
Right.
was not safe. So it's been a real journey. And, I too, I'm like, yeah, I can now enjoy my body and enjoy being with someone in my body and
Hmm.
touching bodies and all the bodies everywhere and
Woohoo!
woohoo, and I'm like, oh my God, so I remember that being a really like, I'm like, wow, like who I had no idea, this is a delight. I love this. And so
Right?
now like reclaiming the joyfulness around physical intimacy, around sex, around all the things to do with that, um, has been like really fun. I'm like, this is fun. I'm like, who knew?
Yeah.
Who knew this was fun? So I love it when you said, be playful with it. I'm like, right. Like it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
so serious.
No.
Yeah.
Sex is a way of playing for adults. I mean, like it is, and it should be. It should be joyful. Like it should not be, you know, anything other than what we want it to be. If you're not having fun, good Lord, do something different.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
like I think, I quote Mary Oliver so often in one respect or another in my life. And, there's a poem where she says, "What will you do with your one wild and precious life?"
Mm,
Like, um, joy and goodness. And like, I'm going to eat the cake and I'm going to have really good sex with people who I like and who are safe and respectful. And I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm a grown ass woman and um, I get to do that.
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So the part that I have struggled with, and even as close, even recently, is however the like intentional intimacy, like the being vulnerable, not so much even
Mhm.
physically, like that. not necessarily so much. I mean, certainly for me, prerequisite is you have to register to me as a safe person.
Mhm.
And by safe, I don't mean you have to be a meek, quiet human. You can have
Yeah.
your moments and be upset and like whatever. Like that's not what I'm talking about. But like like energetically, I feel safe in your presence and I can trust
Mhm.
you. Um, but then the intimacy part of like being vulnerable and like because so much of my background with this has been like was more verbally and emotionally
Mhm.
abusive. So like that's
Mhm.
always like the scary part for me. Like, can I risk asking for what I want or need? Or will you leave me or put me down, for
Yep.
it? And it's like, so I don't, that's where I'm kind of working on it. But
Yeah. I mean, I think there's just no answer. Like that's the unfortunate and the fortunate thing is that there's no answer for it. It's like everything else, it's practice,
right,
you know? And
right.
it's being willing to mess up. It's being willing to be messy. Like, like sometimes you fart when you're having sex and you're like, oh, huh. Hmm," you
Oh,
know,
well.
like, well, like I think it's all of it. I mean, just I think in intimacy in general, whether it's physical intimacy or emotional intimacy, and whether it's romantic intimacy or even just like, like platonic intimacy, like that willingness to be messy, that willingness to allow messy, to welcome messy from yourself, from others, even to ask for it, even to say, like, I need us to be messy now. Like,
Mm. Oh, I like that.
yeah.
I've never thought of it that way. Like, hey, can we just be messy for a second?
Yeah, and I mean,
you
I guess
know?
I'll give a little context to that. Like in my recent, like, care for someone, I don't want to be too specific. This is someone I'm still in care for, but, someone who has some things going on for them. And gosh, I empathize. It's big stuff. And, um, I'm saying, well, I want to be here with you. I don't need, anything particular from you right now. I don't need you to, whatever, and I'm basically saying I want to be messy with you. I want to be here with you and be messy with you. And I had that person say to me, basically, in love and care, like, I can't do this right now.
Mm-hmm.
I asked for what I needed. I said how I felt
Mm-hmm.
really, really honestly, really gently, with no expectation. Um, and I'm grateful that this person is standing by themselves. And it's like we can get into like, well, do you agree with it? Is that fair? I mean, it's like all those things.
Right.
And I just keep like, because those things do come, they come like today, I've been thinking about it, and I just keep going, like, I don't need those things right now. I don't need those, I don't know, questions right now. Like, will those things come at some point into conversation? Maybe. But right now, the primary care for me is that this person is well and that I am well. And
Mm-hmm.
then perhaps we can be well together. But I'm proud of us both for being well on our own first.
Right. No, I mean yeah.
I like clawed my way back to like myself and like, what do you want? What are your values? No, don't be that person who is so good at compromising. Like, I I described to my therapist at one point, I said, I take up space. I am not invisible. I am not meek, but I'm really good at collaboration and at saying, oh, I see I can fill in over there and I can fill in up there. I'm like water. And
Mm.
I'm so present. Like, I'm not like, excuse me, do you mind if I just stand over here? Like, I'm like rushing in,
Mm.
but I'm going in around so that everyone else is there too. And I'm really good at also receding a little bit and saying, oh, you need a little more space there. Like, whoa. And I value a lot of that in myself. And also, sometimes it's not of service to me,
Right.
And so somehow, like, there are just so many pieces of a relationship, of a romantic relationship, of developing that I have found I am just learning so much, and I'm so grateful for this experience. I will say it again, I do not actually like it.
Right. Right. Right.
But I really, I appreciate the access that it is offering me to myself and to like return to myself to ask myself the questions again and again. Like, do I like that? Do I want that? What do I need to say in order to be myself, even if I am left alone forever? Like, I get very dramatic.
Right. Right.
Forever,
Forevermore I
like
will shall be.
forevermore I will be
Right.
alone. Like, I'm never gonna be alone. That is just like, it's not gonna happen. But like, like romantically, like wanting that, wanting relationship, wanting to be, in, more than cursory relationship. Like, as much as
Mm-hmm.
I love sex, and I really enjoy sex, casual sex, less interesting to me.
Yeah, that's not really my jam.
It's not my jam. I'm like, nah, I'd rather really get to know you and like, go
Mm-hmm.
deep, so to speak. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Yeah. Well, I'm just it's inspiring to me. I'm like, okay, I could do this. I can do this.
yeah, you
because
can.
because it's really been this year where I'm like, oh, I really do trust myself to make
Hmm.
good decisions, to know what I want, to go do the things and all that, right? It's been like 52 years in the making of, getting there. So
I'm growing up.
I'm great.
Hooray!
I know. Congratulations on adulting, Hella. My friend's 15-year-old gave me that for my birthday, a statue that said congratulations on adulting. I'm like, thank you for seeing me. I feel so seen
Amazing.
by you, 15-year-old lovely human girl. I love it. It's so great.
Amazing. I love it. That's so good.
Oh, well, congratulations on the film. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
yeah, and I much success.
I'm so grateful to Laura and to the whole team for what they did. I will always be humbled by the care that they created that film with.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I told her, it feels like a dance. The whole film
Yeah,
feels like a dance to me.
it
So,
does.
mm-hmm,
It does.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
So,
Well, thank you,
well,
Hella, and
thank
I hope to
you.
talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Looking forward to
All
it.
right. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again for listening to the Stories That Sparkle, a space I created for women to share in their own voices the intricacies of their stories. Of course, a huge big thank you to Jenn for joining me, for sharing so beautifully and powerfully her story with me and with all of us. So, yeah, super grateful to her. I look forward to collaborating with her on things in the future. I also want to, of course, let you know that you are not alone. If you find yourself in a situation where you feel unsafe in any shape, form, or way, if you're not sure what's happening to you, please know that you are not alone and there is help available to you. I will include resources in the show notes. Please reach out for help. There are people on the other end of that line that can help you get to a place of safety. Okay, having said all of that, I have just completed a 4-week driving tour around the U.S. I recorded 18 different women's stories. Some of those were conversations on a topic. Some of them were explorations of a theme. Some of them were of a particular event in their lives. So look out for those episodes rolling out in early November. And if you're enjoying the Stories That Sparkle, there are a couple of ways you can support the work that I'm doing. One is pass it on to 2 friends and encourage them to download, to listen, to participate in this community. Or you can become a free or paid subscriber to my Substack. It will help support my effort to record women's stories, to amplify women's voices, and to celebrate women's choices. And of course, if you have a story you want to share or a topic you would like me to cover in an episode of the podcast, please drop me a line, hellarader@substack.com. because together we bring light into dark places.